Hello.
Hello.
Good day.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good night.
Good arg.
Good morning.
Good moaning.
Goodness.
Loch Ness. Yes.
Thank you.
Another victory. Another day.
That was the Loch Ness game. It's not a game, and it's certainly not about Loch Ness.
This is the Benji and Nick Show, your number one TV show for vintage television, TV from the past, decades gone by. We have a little look, we have a little think, we watch things, and we let you know whether it's worth your time, and quite frankly, whether it's worth our time.
I'm not Benji.
And I'm not Nick. This week, bit of a wild card, isn't it?
Yeah. Crazy wild.
Crazy. We're doing public information films. Something.
All of them.
We're doing every one. We're watching them live. It's going to take us 40 years. But we're doing that one basically. If you grew up in the UK, certainly if you grew up in the 1970s until about the 90s, public information films were king, weren't they? They were always on the telly, and they were absolutely unapologetically brutal.
Quite often, yeah.
Years gone by, it's not quite as bad anymore.
No.
Growing up, we were only really shown them at school.
Right, I think they may still be on in commercial breaks on commercial television here. I don't know. Before we do that, we're going to look at emails sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. You can write in with your thoughts, however bizarre they may be, thoughts about what we might talk about, your thoughts about a particular program. Shall I just move on with this, Benji?
I think you should. This
is from one of our favorite contributors, Thomas Hodden.
T.E. Hodden.
T-E.
The villain from Live and Let Die.
This is this was sent on the 29th of June in the year 1852, and it's called Whiffy Waff.
Of course it is.
Evening all, I was wondering if you could help me remember the name of a British TV comedy from the 90s. The few things I can remember about are it was a one-off or short-run miniseries. It starred Peter Davison as a novelist or failed novelist who wrote about sheds being mistaken for someone of a similar name and contracted to write a spy movie. For some reason, when taken out to dinner, he ate a lot of kiwis, I think because they were the only thing on the menu he could afford. And the producers kept telling him off because he would write incredibly complex Moscow rules scenes. Man A is followed through the station by Man B while distracted by Man C, and never got round to introducing named characters. I only ended up with it being recorded because I was off at scout camp and asked Mum to take the comedy with Peter Davison, but meant the one on the other channel where he was the shopkeeper daydreaming of an affair. Does that ring any bells whatsoever, or have I invented it in my easily confused mind? And more importantly, was it actually any good? Yours, T.E. Hodden.
Never heard of it, is the answer to that one.
I think that was a load of whiffy waff, but quite amusing, Thomas.
Possibly. Well, next time, if we bump into Peter Davison when we go down to Safeways or something, we'll ask him.
In New Haven.
In New Haven, preferably. We've got one here, Kojak by Martin Johns, sent on the 29th of the 6th, 2021, year of our Lord 107. Oh. Very, very early in the times. Who loves you, baby? How about a look at the American detective series Kojak from 1972? Classic, isn't it? Old telly. Gritty and interesting stories with a charismatic lead actor in Telly Savalas. The opening episode, Siege of Terror, guest stars Harvey Keitel. Keitel, thank you very much. And watch out with support from Telly's brother, Domestos. Not to be confused with...
He's not called Domestos. He kills all known germs. Dead.
And his cousin Sif.
I mean, his brother was indeed in it, playing Stavros.
Domestos.
He was
surely not.
The character was Stavros, which always made me look up when they were showing it after 1975 because I kept thinking they were saying Davros.
Davros.
Anyway, sorry.
What is his brother actually called? Is the answer to this one.
Have you never heard of Harvey Keitel?
No.
Have you not seen Reservoir Dogs? or any.
I've seen Reservoir Dogs, but I just don't know the
it.
guy's. I don't know the guy's name, do I?
Oh, he's
you know.
like famous.
Well, he hasn't got a brother called Domestos, unfortunately.
What's his brother called?
I think it's called Gus or something.
Gus.
Something relatively benign. Gus, yeah.
Did he play Stavros?
Stavros. Let's have a look. Gus Savalas.
We're on tenterhooks here.
Oh, yes, this is a very exciting moment. Gus Savalas in the Dirty Dozen as American General, Dirty Dozen as U.S. Captain, Hollywood Detective as Sergeant at Desk, Kojak as Pittman, Kojak as Pittman with only one T in this one. He was in Mind Twister as Detective 1 and finished his career in 1994 in Cops and Robertsons, where he played Cook.
Well, hold on. This is a major. This is a bit of Mandela syndrome, isn't it? Stavros in.
Oh, there's another brother. I had a brother. There we go. George Savalas was Stavros. Yeah.
He looks like a much fatter Tom Baker. I always used to think. Don't you think?
He does, yeah. Sort of. If Tom Baker and Ian McNeice kind of molded into one.
Yes.
He's got the Ian McNeice sort of hair and face, hasn't he?
Well, I thought he's got Tom's hair.
He's got Tom's hair, but he's got a bit of... Ian McNeice back in the 90s had a kind of good hair at times.
Good hair.
Hair.
Is there a Domestos Savalas?
There isn't. Surely not.
Domestos.
Perhaps he went to Damascus.
No, there just isn't, is there?
Thank you, Martin, for exposing us.
It's borderline xenophobic. When I typed Domestos Savalas, do you know what the first thing Google comes up with?
Ian McShane.
Why? Why Ian McShane? And it says at the bottom, must include Domestos. Obviously, Ian McShane.
But then it equally says missing Domestos.
Yeah. I bet he did the voiceover for a Domestos commercial.
He did. He was in the episode of The West Wing entitled Enemies Foreign and Domestic. That's as far as it goes.
Enemies Foreign and Domestos. Remember those old adverts? Have you seen them? Kills all known germs, dead. And they used to put the thing of Domestos down.
I always love that thing in The Young Ones where they said, Mike says, I just got to go and clean the toilet. Better get some Domestos. Then the toilet suddenly comes to life and says, what's Domestos? It's like a stupid thing ever.
I loved all those talking animals and bits of furniture. Right, this is from.
Hold on.
Sorry, there's more. Sorry.
Says here, Patrick, you're doing a grand job of your podcast, but please have more about TV and less about Pantheon. All the best, Martin Johns. Well, you're more likely to get Pantheon from us because we like to talk about underpants. On to you, Nick.
Patreon. I think he means Patreon and not Pantheon.
Pantheon. Well, don't worry, we will shut up about Pantheon today.
Right, sorry to be a bit previous with this one. Neil Allen, one of our Pantheon supporters, says some cult comedy, and this was sent on the 28th of June in the year 1526. Come on, that's got to be an interesting year.
Which year was that? Sorry,
1526. I was just
slightly.
You were looking up George Savalas again.
No, I was slightly sidetracked because I just got a phone call and it was some unknown number from Livorno, and I thought, where the hell's Livorno? And it turns out Livorno is on the western coast of Tuscany. Now, do I know anybody? You might be asking from Livorno. And do you know the funny answer to that one is no. The year 1526, the Treaty of Madrid was pulled up. The Battle of Panibut. Barbar, don't know what that means.
The Battle of Mohacs, the Ottoman army of Sultan Suleiman I defeats the Hungarian army of King Louis II, who is killed in the retreat. Suleiman takes Buda, while Archduke Ferdinand of Austria and John Zapolia, Prince of Transylvania, dispute the succession. As a result, the battle Dubrovnik achieves independence although it acknowledges Turkish overlordship.
Does it really?
Yeah, there you
Well,
go.
there we go. I mean, a
Emperor
transit of Venus
Gonara.
occurs.
Oh,
Who was Gonara? Oh wow, he's a proper Buddhist guy. Like looks like Buddhist Buddha, sitting cross-legged on the floor.
oh yeah.
That was the Emperor of Japan. So he doesn't
was.
look Buddhist. Well, there is Japanese Buddhism. I don't know.
Thank you for your tour of spiritualism and history.
What can I say? It's the same sort of thing as gunsmith Bartholomew Beretta establishes the Beretta Gun Company. Now that is cool. That is cool.
We found a fact we like.
Yeah. Carry on with the email, Nick.
Will do. So Neil Allen importantly says, "Afternoon, guys." Oh, that's correct.
Good
afternoon. Yeah. I've just ordered a copy of the BBC comedy Hyperdrive after your review last week. I think I did watch it when it was first out, but it didn't leave much of an impression, so I'm going to give it another go. Well, I hope I haven't forced you to spend money that you regret, but I love it. Two other comedy series that I've enjoyed recently has been the 2004 animated TV show I Am Not an Animal. I don't remember this, do you? A really funny show about some animals given human personalities and escaping from a lab.
Lavatory.
A lab. Sorry, a lab. I'm unable to read for some reason. To live in the British countryside. Steve Coogan does one of the voices. The animation may be a bit basic, but the characters are very funny, with Kevin the monkey, voiced by Kevin Eldon, who of course is also in Hyperdrive, having to do most of the housework due to him having thumbs. Please, if you've got time, not if you haven't got time, give it a go. Also, the title "I'm Not an Animal" comes from the film The Elephant Man, which I thought immediately,
I am a man. I'm a human.
Human.
Love
the
that
other
film.
show I've recently, oh yeah, to cry just at the thought of it.
Me too.
The other show I've recently been watching has been Matt Berry's TV series Toast of London, about a veteran actor and the surreal world he lives in. The fourth Doctor Who appears in a couple of episodes. Well, Peter Davison's in it a lot as well. Toast saves the world. Does he mean the fourth Doctor? Maybe he means the fifth Doctor. Toast saves the world in one episode by preventing the captain of HMS Penetrator. That's just funny in itself.
Fire the nuclear weapon.
Nuclear weapons. Toast's brother has a yellow washing up glove as a hand. Plus, it's got Clem Fandango in it. Can you hear me, Toast? It's Clem Fandango. I can hear you, Clem Fandango. I don't. It's funny that Clem Fandango ended up being the sort of sexy love interest in Star Trek Discovery. Did you know that?
Really?
It was the actor who played Clem Fandango suddenly went from being this sort of annoying commercials person to
proper full on. How weird is that?
Isn't it weird? Yeah, very good actor. I don't know if Nick's experience of acting is anything like Toast's surreal world, but it's very funny and worth a watch. Loving the pod, Neil. My experience of the acting world is a tiny bit like times, which is why I think I laugh about it so much.
Well, Matt Berry knows his stuff. He's also fab in Mighty Boosh, which I love as well. That was a good comedy from a few years ago. Love the Boosh. Why didn't they do more? Probably because they got massively famous, is the true answer to that question. I wish they did.
The radio shows in the cars, definitely I did. That's great.
Really? They're great funny. They're absolutely off the wall. I saw them live doing their live show, which was good fun. Great fun. Well, thank you so much for your emails. You know,
sorry, carry on. I keep meaning to catch up with Mindhorn, which is
God, I forgot about Mindhorn.
Yeah. Is that on? Have I missed the window on
Mindhorn?
The flicks. Let's have a look. Is the annoying thing about Netflix is the moment you open it, it starts playing.
Oh yeah.
Starts playing a preview. I really hate. It's not there anymore.
I've been watching more of Zodiac lately, which I've been really enjoying.
Oh, which we did millions of years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, great show. Can't believe they didn't do more. Well, I suppose I can because they ran out of Pantheon, the astrology signs, the Pantheon. Yes, by the way, to everybody listening, you can join our Pantheon. It's a stone structure on top of the mountain of
Colossus,
wherever it is. Thank you very much.
I just made that up. Of course, Zodiac stars Anton Rogers and Anushka
Hempel,
who we are big fans of, aren't we?
Love a bit of Anushka Hempel.
We're starting their fan club.
Yes, please write to us, Anushka. Right, well, I suppose it's time to move on to the matter of hand.
Yes.
The matter of hand, the matter in hand. This is the matter
yeah.
of a hand. I've got two of them. In public information films, man, what a whirlwind. What a weird phenomenon as well. The idea of, if you want to convey a strict and important fact, you must make an utterly horrific video in order to reinforce that to children, is the truth. I mean, these are brutal in a way that only the 70s can do, really. For those of you who might not be familiar with public information films, they involved pretty much seeing exactly the type of things that would happen. Things like a boy throws a frisbee which lands in a power on some power lines or a power generator by the looks of this one, and he goes and retrieves it, picks it up, and gets electrocuted and dies. And you just watch that.
Why am I laughing?
But they are fun. But the problem is, although they're horrifying, they are sort of funny at the same time.
Because they're so brutal, aren't they? They're sort of like, they're like being told something by a tactless person. Don't do it.
So true.
You know, it's kind of, but also when I watched a whole load of them for this, I found myself falling into the anxiety that they were meant to induce. Like a girl comes in to her house, her flat. She says goodbye coyly to a boyfriend, doesn't quite give him a big kiss goodbye, and you think, oh, she's nice. Oh, that's good. She's being a sensible girl and not inviting someone back to her room too quickly. But obviously, a romance is going to fly. You're thinking all these things, and then she goes into her flat, closes the door, puts on the gas fire, and is stone cold dead in the morning because of carbon monoxide emissions. Like,
it's just horrifying, isn't it? Really, it's brutal.
And you just watch that talking about how many people get convicted of drunk driving and all this kind of stuff. Don't let it be you. That one about the sound of a car crashing, and they isolate the sound wave. They slow it down. They say, this is the sound of the head of the person in the rear seat smashing against them. This is the sound of his head going back on the seat after he has killed the driver by bashing into him or whatever.
It's just utterly horrifying, isn't it? Really, it's things like I remember there was one in the 90s of all times that we were shown, which was like of a bunch of kids playing on the railway lines, and then something happens and he gets his foot caught in the rails, and then they have to watch as the train pummels him and destroys him. And then it
because they never actually showed anything nasty. They just cut away at the last moment, didn't they?
And then you see like the after effects, or maybe like I mean, I love that one with the frisbee, because it's just, you sort of don't see it, but then you sort of see this sort of smoldering pile of like smoke and fire next to the kid's body. You just think, gosh, this is just. We were talking last time.
Sorry, go on.
I was to say like Apaches, like that one.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty graphic. I mean, like when the kid falls and drowns in the pig poo, you see him sort of trying to swim out of the pig poo before eventually succumbing to it.
Yeah, but you don't see him actually swallowing pig poo, do you?
Well, I mean, you sort of see him go underneath it and then sort of stop paddling, and eventually, it's nasty.
No. Did you? There's the little boy running along the beach.
I've not seen that one. Let me have a look
now.
Running
along really fast.
What was that for?
Well, it's when you know beforehand what it's for that it's unbearable to watch. It's about leaving broken glass. And then you think, oh God, when's he going to turn on the glass? When's he going to turn on? He's running on. And then eventually you cut to a shot with the glass in the foreground, and his foot just comes towards it and freezes. And you think, in order to have filmed that little boy must have had to jump on a bit of grass.
Oh, here we go. Broken Glass, 1973. Oh, yeah, he's just like having fun on the beach. Having a nice time. Uh-oh. Here we go. He's going to tread in it any minute now. He's distracted. He's not looking at his feet. He's distracted. Why is he looking into the sun? I don't know. Big jagged bit of glass there from a lemon.
And also Shaw Taylor doing the early, because I remember Jimmy Savile doing Clunk Click Every
Clunk
Trick.
Click, yeah.
But Shaw Taylor, who used to do Police 5, which was a show all about stolen goods and stuff and telling the police and what have you. And he's doing this talk about, and he calls you clunk clickers. And there's this long talk about how, because people did not know to wear a seatbelt in those days. They thought it was an optional extra, and most people didn't do it. And he said, you wouldn't do a car journey without this noise. And he turns the engine on and goes, "Rrr." He said, I want to introduce another noise before that happens. It's this noise, the click, like that. Oh, no, it wasn't the engine. It was the closing the door, the clunk. That's what it was. He said, you wouldn't
Clunk Click.
consider making a car journey without this noise. Clunk closes the door. He said, I'm going to introduce click. He said, so maybe we'll become a nation of clunk clickers. And of course we are. No one now in the UK would ever think of getting into a car without putting a seatbelt on. And that's the thing I find interesting about these adverts, is that they are game changers. They're attempts by government to change the way we think about things. And sinister or not, they have succeeded, haven't they?
Well, it's like, look at the AIDS
Drinking
situation. It's AIDS back in the 1980s. People were terrified of AIDS on a mass scale. And when you mention it to people, they remember the adverts of, the big slab with it saying AIDS written on
John Hurt's voice.
John Hurt, I'm AIDS. But it, absolutely right. It does change the way people think about things. I mean, it's
drinking
like the one.
Driving. There's loads on drinking and driving. Did you watch all those with loads of famous faces, with Michael Troughton and people from sitcoms around the time? They would deliberately cast familiar faces. They had Duffy from Please Sir playing. He said, hey, you want to wedge that fire door open and all this kind of thing. And,
people that are relatable. So, it's the same thing now. It's like when you have these people on sort of comic relief and children in need, they're people that the general public see in a different context, because you see them, you laugh with them, and now they're saying, this is really bad, we've got to deal with this. But then you have some that are maybe not as effective. Like, have you ever seen the Mr. Blunders ones?
Yeah, I can't. I didn't watch any for this though. What?
Well, I can't really remember what the point of them was, apart from like, just don't
do what Mr. Blunders does, basically.
Don't do what don't drive like an idiot is essentially what it is. And it's just some bloke. It's basically, I think it's like look in your mirrors or whatever, even though his car doesn't have any wing mirrors. But, look around you when you're driving, and he just doesn't look for other cars. And I think does he eventually kill somebody? I think he's going to kill a woman not wearing a seatbelt. Yes, he head-on collision time. And she goes through the windscreen in a hilarious way.
Did you see the one about the little boy telling the story about how his parents never took care crossing the road?
Yes, I remember that one. Yes, I do remember that one.
And then you find out that his mother is forcing him to cross the road between cars in an unsafe way, and a car nearly hits them, and she's about to give a piece of her mind to the driver, and the driver gets out to give a piece of his mind to her, and then they discover it's the mum and the dad.
Oh, so gosh.
It's this moment where they realize that they're both as bad as each other.
It's clever. It's a clever concept.
And it's a lovely little voiceover from a little boy doing it as well.
It's like the Charlie ones, though. They're very sweet, aren't they?
Charlie says.
It's like the one that I think
weirdos take you to see puppies in the park.
I mean, it's true. You grow up thinking if somebody opens their car door and offers you sweets, or says, "I've got some puppies in this car," don't go in, is basically, and it does work. I mean,
it totally does, and it did with me as a kid. I remember a friend of my mother's who I absolutely knew. I was in distress for reasons we won't go into, coming home from school, and he'd stopped his car and opened the door and said, "Come on, Nick, get in. I'll take you back to Mum." And I wouldn't get in. And he was saying, "No, but you know me." And I just thought, no, but Mummy said, don't get into a stranger's car. But he wasn't even a stranger, but I would not get in his car.
But I don't think there's anything wrong. I think that's absolutely good on you. There was a
22 at the time. No,
it was last week. But there was a thing that I saw on TikTok a few weeks ago, and it was just like some video. It said, like, listen to this amazing person, the people on the emergency services on the other end of the phone when people phone in. And it was there was this young little kid, probably only about 3, probably a bit older, maybe 4 or 5, whose mum had collapsed in the house and didn't know what to do, wasn't sure if she was and phoned up, and it's heartbreaking because the kid doesn't really understand and says, "Hi, I need you to help. My mummy's on the floor and she's not moving, and I'm really scared. I don't know what to do." And they said, "Well, do you know where you live?" And the kid said, "No, I don't know." And he said, "We've got a red door." I said, "Okay, well, do you know?" And it was like the person on the other end was being so calm and saying, "Okay, don't worry, it's fine. We'll find you. Can you see anything out of the windows?" And he said, "Can you come, please? Mummy's upset. I don't know what to do." And your heart is just pounding. And then the child says, "How will I know to open the door? Because I'm not allowed to open the door to strangers."
Oh.
And the lady says, "Well, look, I'll be on the phone. And so when you open the door, if it's a stranger, I'll know, and I'll be able to make sure that you're safe and everything's okay. So don't worry." But the kid was adamant, "I'm not opening the door to anybody I don't know." And I thought, that mum, I've no idea the fate of the mum, whether she lived through this one or not. But the mum had obviously done a fantastic job at really reinforcing, don't open the door to strangers. So these do, I think, to an extent, work, don't they?
They do. They absolutely do. I just wanted to mention, just reminded me, Eric Thompson, from the Magic Roundabout and all the Funny Faces adverts.
Funny face, yes.
Hey. He was doing the voiceover for one of these terrible doom-laden things, and it just didn't work because he has an innately reassuring
Calming
voice.
Yeah.
It just reminded me then, because your voice sounded very compassionate when you were talking about that story. I thought he sounds a bit like Eric Thompson there. Just don't come up with all the best flavors,
Funny faces.
Yeah, but I certainly have. There's one of those adverts that to this day I recite the little rhyme to help me when I'm driving, because you've got to stay. It's only really safe when you're driving, especially on a motorway, if you're 2 seconds behind the car in front of you, because it takes 2 seconds for your brakes to engage properly if you suddenly have to step on them if the car in front stopped. And the guy says, a guy who I think sort of represents death, he sort of is by the roadside. He says, "Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule." Remember that.
Yeah.
It takes only 2 seconds to say. And what you had to do is, as an object went past on the side of the road, it went boop and illuminated. And the moment you pick an object like a bush or anything, and you start saying, "Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule." And if you've not reached that object by then you're okay. That's it. So,
but you remembered it.
Yeah. And even now, when I was driving recently on motorways, I was going along and I was thinking, "Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule." So
I love the idea that in your spare time you stand at the edge of motorways looking at people in cars saying, "Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule," as they go past.
You were going to say that I would go boop and illuminate myself so that they can use me as a marker point.
I wish you did. But it's the one that really frightens me, and I sent it to you, Nick, is the one about rabies.
Oh my god!
So scary.
Horrific.
And
well, we were all terrified about rabies back in the 70s.
Oh god! I mean, the noise that it makes as well. The Have you sent me a picture?
Yeah, I've sent you the picture of this podcast's cover.
So yes, that's there we
death
go.
There.
The hood, the spirit of lonely water, I think, isn't it? It's called. And there's also thin black ice is another one as well. The Grim Reaper, the hooded Grim Reaper. Here's the scary noise of the rabies advert. So that's the aeroplane. And every time you see this kid, it makes a scary noise. It goes, it's horrible. It's nasty.
It's horrible. And also this poor little kid in terrible distress. And that is actually, I think, footage of a real rabies victim, which is horrific to show. I mean, it's interesting. I spoke a while back, didn't we, to Shelley about keeping cats indoors, and she didn't know that we didn't have rabies in this country, because they do in America. So if you have a pet animal in America, it's at risk of catching this terrible disease and communicating it to human beings. Whereas,
it's not a thought for us anymore. You don't have this thought. I mean, if you get bitten by a dog, that's still part of you in the back of your mind thinks, "Gosh, what if that dog has not that it's happened to me?" But if an Alsatian bites you when you're out in the woods, you might think to yourself, "What if that dog has rabies?"
I wouldn't think that.
Well, I don't know. You might too.
Well, you need a tetanus jab or something. But yeah, I don't. There is no rabies in this country. We're an island nation, and luckily we've been isolated from that, but only because of the strenuous efforts of all the professionals involved, and also the government for making these terrifying films.
Well, they work clearly. What we've come to throughout this discussion is that, to an extent, they do work. I mean, I mentioned to my sister, I said we're doing public information films this week, and she said, well, what are they? And I told her what they are, and she said, oh, I remember those. She said, yes, I remember. They were really frightening. They showed us one at school of there was one about fireflies or something, and there was another one.
Yeah, with Richard Breyer's doing the voiceover. I saw it's an animated thing. Yeah, it's about playing with matches.
The one.
Yeah.
And there was also another one that they saw. It might even be the same video where they have a house that's on fire and the toys start melting. Oh, and that's really frightening. You're seeing like a dolly's face melting, and it's sort of saying,
Did you see the one about in a house fire? They said you'd think you'd wake up if there was a house fire, but after three breaths of noxious fumes, you're unconscious, and then you're drowning, and you realize that the people you're watching in bed, their entire room is filled with water and they're just drowning. And it's just horrific, this idea that you could be asleep and just die in your sleep and not know a thing about it.
Happens to it happens. But it still happens. It still happens. Oh, when I was at school, a whole family were wiped out because of that. Yeah. And you believe, you think, whoa.
They're basically saying keep your smoke alarms, up.
It's amazing how many people don't look out for their smoke alarms and don't change the batteries, don't test them. It's incredible how that still happens. People just take it for take it for granted.
Well, they think, really. I'd hear it, and you just don't, do you? Think of the number of times in your life when you've been fast asleep and people have tried to wake you up, and haven't been able to. No. It's just like a government information film.
Yes, don't always don't sleep is what we're trying to say.
Don't ever sleep, otherwise you may not wake up.
This is a broadcast on behalf of the government. Don't sleep. If you sleep, you might miss something, and if you miss something, you might die. FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, not anymore. Take these new pills. They're called.
And put these matchsticks between your eyelids. Put wide open the whole time.
And if you think you're nodding off, stab yourself in the leg with a fork.
I have related that. Do you remember my 2 methods for staying awake whilst watching bad films for review?
Reminds me, I remember that we have discussed this before.
One was chewing gum. It's very difficult to fall asleep.
Wasn't the other you were sticking something painful on your hand or something?
No, I didn't do that. I pull through my trousers. I pull hairs out of my leg.
Oh God!
That sharp pain would just wake you up.
Just enough to
the number of really awful subtitled movies that I had to do that to keep it. The $64 million question is: do they still make public information films?
I think they do, but probably more so. Do they?
I mean, I was really surprised that some of these classic ones we remember are only from the 90s. I thought they were all from the 70s. But
well, I mean, I suppose there are our latest thing, I suppose, with the coronavirus is, of course, we're seeing a lot of those, and the thing that great one with the person who touches everything, and you can see where they've been and what they've touched and how it spreads everywhere. And it says it was quite good, and it's sort of saying, I was about to say, brush your hands, wash your hands.
Brush your hands with polish.
Brush your hands, love. I don't know if they still make them anymore.
Well, they do. As you say, they do for coronavirus. So there must be a department who make them. The Department of Frighten You to Death. Hello, Department of Frighten You to Death. What can I do for you? Could you frighten me to death, please? Yes. Hold on. Don't sleep.
They still do. Don't sleep. I've just had a look. Yes, they do still make them. There's a 10-minute video of loads of them from the past 10 years. In 50 years, drink driving deaths would have fallen. If you blah, blah, blah. Don't take antibiotics is one here. I remember this one with the dancing antibiotics. It's saying, if you don't take them unless you have to, or if you've been prescribed by a doctor.
A medical professional.
Yes, there's one. Don't drown, float to live.
Well, these seem obvious. Don't drown, float to live. Yeah,
float to live. There's one about a crossing here. Level crossings don't run the risks. Network Rail.
Yeah. Well,
So are these more now? These are more to do more by independent organizations than governmental videos. Then clearly, because like that one was by Network Rail. The first one was by the Fire Brigade. The antibiotics one. Who made this one? Let's have a look.
NHS.
Surely, yeah. I mean, yes, the NHS, Public Health England. So
there's a fantastic old public information film about the NHS display, and it shows someone collapsing, and as they're collapsing, all the different people who are treating them for what turns out to be epilepsy. And it's saying, you know, and it's recruiting people to work in the NHS, but it shows all the different layers of treatment and aftercare. I found it quite moving, actually. You know, I thought, oh yeah, the NHS is blooming good.
Well, the NHS is incredible, isn't it? Really.
Let's stand up and clap.
Let's do this. But I remember there was one you've just made me remember a video actually, which was when years ago there was something I can't remember if it was to do with heart attacks or something, but there was a chap going down some metal stairs, and it shows the entire fall in slow motion.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Is that the same one? Yeah, when you see his neck in slow. Oh god, and that was that. Isn't it funny? That really does stand out in your mind. Exactly. I don't remember the aftercare bits, but I just remember the falling and the...
You hear the voices of the different, and a little credit comes up telling you what the profession of each person speaking is. Yeah,
very clever, very clever. Well, there we go. You know.
Obviously, I give them 6 exclamation marks out of 5.
In fact, I think I made a public information film once.
Did you?
And I think I might be able to show you it. Yes, this was years and years ago.
After promising it like that, Benji, don't let us down.
It was all about. This is years ago, but let me have a look through my YouTube. It's being the hidden videos.
It's very exciting. You're sure it's not offensive?
It's not offensive. Only if you're a piece of fruit.
Or was it a bit like they said, think of this hammer as a bike. Think of this squashy peach as a pedestrian.
What's it? It's the young ones, isn't it? Think of this parcel of strawberry jam and this breeze block glued to a cricket bat that has you going along in your car. What would happen if you...
Well, it is all based on the think once, think twice, think bike. You know the guy who did that advert? He was the star, Edward Judd, I think his name was. And he was the new and introducing, as it were, up-and-coming star of The Day the Earth Caught Fire, which co-starred Leo McKern. And years later, on the DVD release of it, they actually interviewed Leo McKern. And he actually said, I don't know what happened to Edward Judd. Think once, think twice, think bike. He remembers the advert that Edward Judd did. And that's all he knows about his later career.
How bizarre. He just clearly remembers it then.
Leo McKern talking about it. Think once, think twice, think bike.
I think I might have found it.
I've
found it. It's on my old...
For those not watching the video, you'll be able to hear the sound.
Yes, you can hear the sound. Okay, let me see if I can do this for you.
Lots of clicking going on. I hope
yeah. It'll work. Okay, so I'll have to share... Let's stop the Benji and Nick show. This is very exciting for everybody, but I'm sure you'll appreciate it. So it should be share screen, Chrome window.
Nothing's happening.
You get to see me very young. Beware. Yeah. Here we go.
Well, it's getting late here on supervision, so last of all, here's a public information film. Running late for work? Could this be you on your morning walk? Stop. Did you know one of the biggest dangers you could encounter is one you hadn't even thought about? They're everywhere.
A banana skin.
Even in places you wouldn't
in a post box and on a door sign and a traffic cone.
Wait.
Here he goes. Benji's. Oh! Brilliant slip on the banana skin.
So next time, follow the usual procedure. Look down and follow the sign. I see he's learned his lesson. Bananas. Don't make them one of your 5 a day.
There we have it. It's so stupid.
I love the way you run away from
Well, it's getting late.
I did an inverted commas joke with my son Ben with a banana skin last night, which involved me throwing it at him, and he got really upset.
Did he get a bit upset?
He did, but then he came down later and apologized for overreacting, and I apologized for doing it in the first place. Then I went to get in my bed, and he'd arranged for my wife to put a fake plastic banana in my bed.
Oh, he's a schemer. He got you in the end. Well, they are. You should fear them.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, that was always the way I wanted to go, not to be macabre, but I always thought that'd be a really fun way to end things, is to slip on a banana skin or something. You know.
Well, yeah. What you want is a sudden, unexpected death, isn't it? Basically, you don't have to
with a
think
sort
about it beforehand,
with a sort of comedic twist. You know. Exactly, choking on a wine gum or something like that, something comical that people will look back and think, "Oh yes, well at least we laughed."
And then he died. How many exclamation marks are you giving public information?
I love them. They're terrifying. They get 5 out of 5 because why wouldn't you give something 5 out of 5 for terrifying children into doing good things?
Clunk clickers.
Clunk clickers. There we go. What about you, Nick?
I gave it 6 earlier on.
Oh, even better. Well, there we go. I suppose the real message here is be safe, everybody, and look after yourselves. We've got to talk about what we're doing next week. And you mentioned, Nick, didn't you, earlier? You mentioned about that New Zealand series.
Oh, Under the Mountain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's watch the first episode of that then.
Under the Mountain, recommended to us in our emails last week, I believe. We're going to watch that, and we'll give you our views on it.
Yes.
Whether it's worth your time and ours. As always, thank you to our Patreon subscribers here.
And the Pantheon subscribers.
And the Pantheon subscribers and anybody wearing pants. From us here, it's goodbye, be safe, be well, and don't drive on the road. Reuben Kaiser was Michael Gambon. Mark Brown was George Baker. George Sutton was Bill Maynard, and Paula Sutton was played by Betty Etheridge. Cameraman, Nick Tedstone. Pianist, Nathan Martin. Window cleaner, Neil Allen. Bird supervisor, Hugh McIlroy. Tiger supervisor, Carl Scott. Submarine driver, 42nd Seagoon. We would like to exchange a huge thanks to the entire branch of Safeways in New Haven. The director was Oliver Cromwell and producer Richard IV. This has been a Red Ray Gun Limited production.